Hey there, everybody, and welcome into another week of Buccaneer Insider. We're back, Killian McClatchy and Nick Case. It is hot outside, but it's nice and cool indoors as the temperature continues to rise outdoors. I know I kind of sound like a weatherman getting started, but goodness gracious, it's been so hot.
Tell me about the dew point, Killian. What's the dew point? I need to know the dew point.
I don't have that one. Look, I'll flip a coin for you. It's either going to be really hot or only kind of hot tomorrow.
And the next day. And the next day.
Yeah.
And the next day.
Don't forget, you might have some storms in there too.
Yes. But you know what? East Bay Deli will solve it all.
That's true. You can order East Bay Deli, and they'll come right to you. You don't even have to leave the comfort of your own home and air conditioning.
Get the plug out of the way early.
It's pretty good. That was smooth.
Thank you.
Either way, welcome in, everybody. We'll quit messing around. It's another week of Buccaneer Insider. Thank you for joining us, and we got another week. This one's a little bit you won't get to listen to us talk the entire time for once, as I'm sure everybody will absolutely enjoy. And we'll get back to kind of regularly scheduled programming. And this time we're going a little behind the scenes as we've been talking. We've been kind of making our way through the athletic department. We got some coaches, got some student athletes. This week, we're going to some of the staff. We've got Betty Palmer, who's the Associate Athletic Director for Academics. And it was a great chat with her, kind of getting to know what she does and really how important she is to the entire athletic department.
Yeah, she is she's so vital, and you don't know about her role ever. But honestly, without her, the ship would not steer because she helps make sure the student athletes are taken care of and on the right track and make sure they're good to go and not violating any academic rules. So seriously, one of the key pieces of this puzzle and one that's not really talked about.
No, it's one of those positions where, it's very, you don't hear much about the position, but it does so much great work, and she really does for this university. So it was a great time chatting with her. We've got her coming up first, and then afterwards, we've got the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Public Relations, our boss, Seth Montgomery. And it's always fun talking to Seth. I know we get the opportunity to chat every once in a while, and we've been able to actually see each other in person a few times over these last couple months, but it's always good getting to hear from him and kind of hear what his job looks like now that everything's changed.
He's a man that doesn't take a break. And as much as this whole COVID thing has been rough, I have been happy for him because he's been able to take a moment and take a breath. And you'll kind of get a peek inside what it's like to be an SID when we get a chance to sit down and talk to him, and you'll be very tired.
Yeah, it is a chaotic life. We can say that we live busy lives and, setting up the broadcasts and broadcasting, and it's nothing compared to what Seth does. It really isn't.
No, because on top of having to do that, he has to corral us and herd us like sheep, and it's hard enough to do.
Yeah, he does that. I was going to say he's got his kids at home, and then he has to deal with us at work. So, 50-50.
6 in one, half dozen in the other, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, either way, we'll quit the talking. We'll quit the gabbing. We'll get on to our first interview of this week's episode. We've got Betty Palmer. Welcome in. We've got a really special guest here to start off this episode, a little bit less of a athletics-focused episode and more of kind of the behind-the-scenes people that help make everything go. And first off, we've got Betty Palmer, the Associate Athletic Director for Academics, a very important position. Betty, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on here. And we've kind of made our way through the sports. We've been talking to the athletes, and now we talked to each other last week. I'm sure people are sick and tired of hearing our voices, Nick and myself. And so we're glad to have you on. And so what have these last few months been like for you in your position?
Well, definitely interesting. Once spring break came, we all packed up and went home, and we worked out of our homes, which is a unique opportunity. I'll use that to be a little forward thinking, but it was unique, but we got it done. And the student athletes were fantastic. They worked hard. They didn't like it necessarily, and I understand that. Nobody really did. But we got through it, and now summer 1 just ended, and we're starting summer 2 yesterday, the summer session. So we're back in. We came back in June 1st and all got tested on that day. So it was kind of an interesting reunion out in the parking lot, kind of fun times. But We're doing well. I think the student athletes are adjusting well. We've gone to or implemented a few new things. One is virtual study hall, and so far so good.
Nothing quite brings you together like having your brain touched simultaneously by a cop. I've had 3 all negative, thankfully, for different things, and you get used to it after a while. No, you don't. Now, your title is Associate Athletic Director for Academics. What all does your role at CSU entail?
So what we basically, once the student athlete has been admitted into the university and has a schedule, then we kind of take that and we work hand in hand with our compliance office, as well as our certifying officer, as well as our faculty, the faculty advisors, everything to make sure the student athlete stays on their major course of study. No wavering around, that sort of thing. We advise them also because you get a lot of students think they know what they want to major in, but they're just not sure. One of the really nice things, I think it's kind of a neat thing here at Charleston Southern is that through our liberal arts core, there are many different subjects that get to be taken, and they also have to be taken, but it allows the students to have an idea about that. So for instance, Communications 110, as we call it, Com 110 is public speaking. Well, if they happen to have some interest in the college in the communication studies, that's a perfect segue to go right in and do it. Psychology is the same way. Of course, you have the Englishes, the histories, the math, all that stuff, but there are certain key ones. What we call Busy 203, which is personal financial planning, is a great idea if they're not certain about any of the business majors. That gives them a segue into it. So, ours is really to help them get into the area that they want to be in. It's not our job to tell them what to major in. It's our job to help them navigate the major that they have chosen, or help them to find the one that they want to go down and help them develop for their future. That's the key thing. Oftentimes they don't think ahead of the day, but we're trying to help them think post-graduation, what are you going to do? So we do a lot of things.
You have a team with you. Do you want to give them a quick shout out?
Absolutely. Great staff. Katie Balcom is one of our coordinators for athletic academics. Katie is also an adjunct professor in communication studies. We also and she's been with us, I think, 3 years now. And then we just have brought on board Abby Ebeck, and Abby is our other coordinator. She came to us from Texas Tech University, and prior to that, she was at East Carolina. She has a football background, has worked with the defensive side of football predominantly, but she will be taking over track and field, volleyball, tennis oversight for those sports. And then Katie has baseball, soccer, softball, and cheerleading. And then I have the oversight for football, men and women's basketball, men and women's golf.
And so one of the things is you and your team, and we've gotten a chance to speak to some of the student athletes and how things were for them transitioning from in-person to online. And, you kind of mentioned how your job, the changes a little bit, but what kind of in detail, what changed for you going from there on campus and being able to see the students and see them every single day and help them out, to now having to be on Zoom and communicating that way?
Well, just that, not having that personal interaction. And it's one thing, just like what we're doing right here, having this communication and seeing each other through the means of a computer, which is fantastic, as opposed to not having that means. But having that direct communication, being able to say, and this is one of the funniest things, is that if they get a text from me that says, I need to see you in my office as soon as possible, that's never typically a good thing, but they miss that. I even had a couple of them who said, we miss, those demanding texts that say we have to come in. We just like seeing these kids. We see so many. We have probably of the 300, and right now we have 325 enrolled for fall. I would say that we'll have a direct communication with about 60-65%. So, there's a lot of student athletes coming in and out of our offices for assigned meetings or just general communication, just updates, that sort of thing. But we missed that. That was probably the hardest, is that direct, but we at least got to see them. I remember seeing a group of the guys, and I hadn't seen them probably 3 or 4 weeks, and I just looked at them all and I said, y'all just made my heart happy because I got to see you, And so we're that group of people who we have to be fairly tough at times, but we're also loving and we're also supporting. We want to listen, but we also want to help them to make their decisions correctly in terms of things from the academic standpoint.
Mid-March, things really got disrupted, obviously. Student athletes were probably one of the hardest hit. What kind of challenges have they communicated to you about the whole switch to online so sudden?
To make it pretty simple, they don't like it, which is interesting and kind of humorous, because oftentimes, hey, I just need to take some online classes, and now they got it. Be careful what you ask for. What they also didn't understand, and this was something that we helped to communicate, was the difficulty in transition for the faculty to online. That was something we needed them to understand as well. It was a two-way street, because you got to understand, we have certain subjects, they're not taught online and probably shouldn't be. And that would be accounting, math, the lab sciences, very difficult to teach online. So we wanted the students to understand it was also, and they knew that, the teachers conveyed that as well. But, that was the hardest part, is time management. When they're in the classroom, their day's pretty much structured when they're here on campus. I wake up, go to workout, go to class, eat lunch, go to practice, study hall. And they have study hall that may be taking place all throughout the day, different times of the day. But when it's online and they're at home, and like the rest of us, the kitchen was really close by, a lot closer than we wanted it to be. It just took a lot of discipline. And that was the thing. It took discipline for us. It took discipline for the professors. It took discipline for the student athletes. So that was a hard transition for everybody. But we survived it. We did well. I was proud of everybody. It was, we were all having a big high five on the airwaves when it was over with.
Well, kind of looking forward a little bit now, and obviously not everything's set in stone, or, there's still a lot of moving parts when it comes to the future in this next school year. But is there anything that you guys have already kind of planned out that, we're going to try and do this for the student athletes and for the university?
Well, our first thing is this virtual study hall, and we just started that yesterday, and it's going well. We're into day 2, doing very well. We're going to have a Zoom meeting at 4:00 today with all the football freshmen and transfers, new students, and remind them of certain things that they have to do in terms of how to check in, how to check out. Some of them just show up. We have it all structured. Abby and Katie have done a terrific job of getting everything set up. But otherwise, what's going to be new? I think really everyone being patient this fall. We're going to have to really work with all of the student athletes, regardless of if we see them with regularity or not, because it's going to be different. This fall will not be the same as it was in 2019. Everybody knows that. How different will it be? I don't know. I hope it's not that different, but I know it won't be the same just because of COVID. We got that. But, we're just going to be patient with them, take it one day at a time, and continue on with the encouragement of how to structure and set up their studies times and how to properly approach each class. Oftentimes we'll see student athletes, and I know this is not unusual for high school students to wait to the last minute to get their classwork done. And you can't do that in college. Everybody knows. They think they can, but then they learn the hard way. Can't do it. So keeping up with their studies, staying ahead, And so we have the course syllabi for all the classes. So when they say, I don't have anything to do, we can just pull it up. And well, maybe you do. So they don't like it when we do that.
I certainly don't know anyone that tried to wait till the last minute in college to do their work. Nope. Nope. Doesn't work at Trident Tech. Doesn't work at CSU. Let me tell you. Something a little bit lighter. I know you're a big golf fan, not just because of the shot behind you there, but how happy are you to have live golf back?
It really was. I had watched a little bit of the reruns and so forth of all the great classics, but it just got, pardon the pun, old after a while because they were already had been, but I thought it was great. I loved it when we saw the first, fun match when Rory and who all went out. I can't remember on that first one. DJ and a few of them went out. And then came the next one where Tiger, went up and Phil went up against Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. I think that was it. Those were fun. And then we get to the tournaments. I thought they were great lead ups. Golf is so unique because it's just such an individual sport, even though they have teams of people who travel with them. But for these men and soon to be the women when their tour cranks up, I think everybody's just anxious to get live sports back. And I think that was part of with golf. It was just fun to see it. I know baseball's getting cranked up or trying to get cranked up. I think they they're all reporting back now. So we'll see how it all goes. I know they get tested every day in baseball. I think golf gets tested at least 2 or 3 times, before they get on the charter and then after they get to the site and then maybe again. And they've had their positives pop up, but it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
And so do you go out and do you play some yourself as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How has you gotten out in the last little bit? I know everybody's been kind of stuck at home. Have you been able to get out in the open air, hit the course a couple times?
Right. So, my previous life, I did what I did. So that was what, as a college coach. So when you get into a position where you're more at a desk, kind of like where we are now, you don't get to play during the week, but the weekends we play every Saturday and Sunday, my husband and I do. So that's our kind of get out time. It's been hot though. I'm not going to lie. It just gets really hot, but we enjoy it.
What's your favorite local course?
So we play Coosaw Creek a lot because we live on it. And if you live on it, you have to belong to it. It's one of those things. Charleston has just an incredible amount of golf courses. Yeaman's Hall may be one of the best quiet ones around, and it's in Hanahan area. But the coast has all of them. I really can't say what's my favorite. They're all I'm because I'm a golfer. You play the courses, you find it. So it's just kind of at this point, as I have gotten older, my distance is far less than whatever it was. It wasn't much to begin with, but it's finding a course that sets up to the way you play, and that's kind of where you look for things like that. But Charleston's just very fortunate. We've just got a lot of really good golf courses.
I'm just down the road in Archdale, and Killian and I, when we came into the office the other day, drove by Coosaw, and I said, I went to Fort Dorchester. I've always known that's a good course, but I've never played it, and I'd love to sometime. But Westcott's just right there, and it's a little cheaper, so it's always the default for me whenever I go.
Well, we'll be glad to get you out to Coosaw some point. Right now, I'll be honest, we played this weekend. It was so hot, so it may have to be late in the evenings now when we can play and some, just because of the heat. But, Westcott, I like Westcott. I mean, you got big wide fairways. I said you can land, a large jet airplane out there on those fairways. So I like that. So if I happen to go this way or that way,
that's definitely what I need. We'll come find you during holiday break. And
there you go.
Yeah. That's not quite the promise that Payne had of getting us on the ocean course, but I'll also take Coosaw. So
Nick
Jason, let me just say this. I'd go with Jason. We have to get Jason to get us on some courses. So there you go.
You can join the group. I was going to say, Nick's been working himself into getting us some golf rounds going. And I mean, he's the negotiator.
We need a department group outing and just all go.
Yeah, we missed the Buck Club one this year because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all missing the outing that we had last year and the year before.
Yeah.
Before that. So, at some point we need to make it happen. I don't know when, I don't know where, but, We'll see what
Yeah,
Payne.
we do.
We'll see what strings Payne can pull for us. He said he seems to think he has a lot of clout. We'll test that.
He's never met a stranger. I know that.
Oh yeah.
We'll ask you kind of I guess we pretty much ask it to everybody who's, everybody who golfs. What, if you could pick one course that you could play anywhere in the world, what would it be?
Augusta National.
All right.
I've been there. I've been to the tournament a couple of times, but I would love to play it. So I've had the fortunate opportunities through when I was coaching at Alabama to be able to be on some very, very prestigious golf courses. Not necessarily play them because the team would be playing them, but to walk the fairways. But and also just on trips, I've been able to see it, like in Scotland. I played, when you say you played Turnberry, St. Andrews, Carnoustie, all of those great courses, and they are, and I did get to play those. But Augusta, I'd really like to play that golf course. And I kind of had about 20 years ago, an opportunity to play it, but then schedules didn't play out. So I had a friend of a friend, knew a member, and it's one of those deals. But anyway, close. It didn't happen.
I asked Jeffers this, and I'll ask you, if you had a dream foursome at any course, what would it be?
Dead or alive?
Anything. Dream.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say I would love to play golf with Tiger Woods just to watch that in person. Now, I've seen him play. I've been outside the ropes and watched it. So, but I would love to, be able to talk to him. Patty Berg, who was one of the founders of the LPGA, and she's fantastic. And this one's going to loop, but Lee Trevino, because I think he's hilarious. And that guy plays. He just goes up there and walks up there and hits it. It's not all technical. And then the fourth one, that would be the four coming up, right? Or is that four? Did I say? I already gave you four.
We can give you one.
Yeah, we'll give you one more.
I'd be the fifth.
Yeah.
So after that, Jack Nicklaus, no doubt. And I did get to experience a 9-hole exhibition with him a million years ago. I was an assistant club pro in North Carolina, and he came and did an exhibition. And I, with the LPGA star of that day, her name was Jan Stevenson. And they had me being right there with them and another one of our assistant pros. So it was kind of cool. But he was a super nice man. He's just like what you see. I mean, respectful, cordial. He was just wonderful. So
I think I'd do John Daly 3 times and myself. You're not going to have a bad time.
Be interesting.
Yeah, you're not going to have a bad time.
Well, that's the thing about Lee Trevino. Lee Trevino is just, even to this day, I mean, he's talking while he's taking the club back. So it's, you get a little bit of everything. You get that, and then you get Tiger over there who's grinding and all seriousness and everything. And then you get Patty Berg, her personality was a whole lot like Lee Trevino's. And then you got Jack in there who's, still very serious about it, but also, the one thing about Jack Nicklaus people don't realize, he was a family man, and he still is, obviously. But even when in his heyday of being on the tour, he was a very devout family man, loyal. They didn't talk about that then like they do now. And they didn't, their private lives were completely, which is a whole lot nicer in many ways. We didn't have to know, but his was fantastic.
I like the group. And, well, Nick, I don't know if you've got anything else.
No, I think this has been really good. It's good to see you Friday, Betty. And I was in the office yesterday, didn't get a chance to stop in, but it was good to see you again for the first time in a while. So, and it's good to talk and good to kind of get you out there. So, people that don't know how important your role is can kind of get a grasp on what goes on behind the scenes.
Well, we just, we love what we do, and we love these kids. They're wonderful people. They're not kids, they're young adults, but they're wonderful, and they're just make our job so much easier. So to kind of just circle back, and then I'll stop talking. You asked what was the difference, and big thing about being at home and online, as opposed being able to make those student athletes make our lives better, and having that interaction, as I said, that's just so important. And hopefully we give a little bit of inspiration back to them. But, it's just, they make our job really nice and fun, and that's makes it more fun to come to work every day, besides working with you guys.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
And Jason Payne and Jordan. I mean,
Yeah, of course, naturally.
Oh, well, either way, we really appreciate it, Betty, for coming on. As the Associate Athletic Director for Academics, I know I can speak for Nick and myself, all of the staff, and I feel like for a very, very large majority of all those student athletes. We can't wait to get back on campus. Can't wait to be able to see you and actually talk in person and not through a computer screen.
Well, same here. We are anxiously awaiting their arrival. And thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Betty. We really appreciate it.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
That was Betty Palmer, the Associate Athletic Director for Academics, and it was great getting to see her and chat with her. And she really is. We mentioned it at the start before we got to talking to her, and she really is so important to this university and what she does.
Yeah, them and compliance are two of the backbones that really don't get talked about too much. You hear about compliance and somebody gets in trouble, but without compliance, people will be getting in trouble a lot more. Without Betty, people would be getting in trouble a lot more for certain things. And they really make everything run so smoothly and have a lot of weight in their shoulders, and they handle it well.
Yeah, so she just an excellent job. We commend her and everything that she does, and we really appreciate what she does for CSU. And so before we get on, again, East Bay Deli, presenting sponsor. We mentioned it's hot outside. You can get it carry out. They can deliver. Check out East Bay Deli, and they will take care of you for lunch, dinner, whatever you need. And so now we're going to move on to the back half. Our second interview of this week, it is Seth Montgomery, the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Public Relations. Welcome in our second guest of this week's episode of Buccaneer Insider. It is the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Public Relations, a long title for Mr. Seth Montgomery, who actually is the man who's technically in charge of I know myself and Nick and really the whole thing. So thank you for letting us keep doing this every week.
No, thank you guys for taking this and just running with it. It's one of those seasons right now where we're trying to look for content. We're trying to kind of provide that behind the scenes look and appeal to what's going on in college athletics at this point of time. And this is a great opportunity, and you guys have done a great job with it.
Well, thanks for joining us. That'll do it.
All we needed. That's really all we needed.
So you are in charge of communications, public relations stuff. What's it been like doing that when there hasn't been sports?
It's definitely been an adjustment. I've been in this field. This will be my 13th year overall in communications as far as collegiate athletics is concerned. This is going to be in my 9th year at CSU starting July 9th. Will be 9 years. So it's been an adjustment going from working 6, 7, 8 athletic events a week to kind of just maintaining and record keeping for the last 4 months. It's definitely been something that I'm not used to. I mean, I'm enjoying having a little bit more free time to spend with my family, but at the same time, it always feels like there's something more that can be done, which is why I'm here at the office trying to get some stuff ready for this upcoming year.
And so what have you kind of typically, for a lot of people that don't know, what does a day-to-day in the regular world look like for a regular season, we'll say, leading up to a week for football? What does your week typically look like?
There's a lot of aspects that go on to it. If you're talking middle of the season of football, there really isn't a day off or a time that is taken off, because as soon as the final whistle is blown after a game on a Saturday night, you have all the post-game interviews. You got the recaps and coordinating the photos and the videos that are going out to the media and making sure that everything is up to date on our social media accounts and our website, csusports.com. So there's the plug. But as well as So once you wrap up and you finish with that on game day, the very next day, there's a number of different items that are due to the national office and the Big South Conference office to try to get players, Player of the Week accolades, as well as just information out to the various accounts that may not have read what happened at the game on Saturday night. So that happens on Sunday, and then Monday we're right back into the week where we have our press conference with Coach Denson with our local media members, get ready for practice, start building. If it's a home game, that's when we start building the game day program, our game notes. We situate and put together our graphic content, as well as just get ready for the video elements that we need to put for the basic home game atmosphere at CSU at the football stadium. And then a lot of that's the rest of the week is just building and maintaining. We have more interviews that happen throughout the week. We sit down with players and just try to build some of the storylines that'll go into that week's competition. And then before you know it, everything has come to a head and we're back there for kickoff again on Saturday, making sure that everything is ready to go and that people are able to watch and enjoy the game. So it's kind of a whirlwind for that 12 to 13 week period because it just seems like it goes nonstop.
It really is a 24/7 job pretty much for you, and there's not a lot of downtime, not much space for vacation hours to come into play.
Not really, but there are some times that I do get to spend with my family. I've got a now 2-year-old son that he was kind of my little mini helper this past season, where for our home games, he and I started a little tradition where we'd stop and we'd pick up donuts on our way to the field at 8 or 9 a.m. to go ahead and just do our preview and our walk through the building to make sure everything was ready to go. And then he and I would sit on the second floor and we'd just hang out and talk as much as he could. But then he would sit and he would just munch on donut holes and just run around and laugh and just have a good time.
All right, we're back. Seth is back. We had a little bit of a computer update that had to be done, so that's been taken care of. We're all back. We're ready to go, and you were just finishing up talking about kind of your tradition on game days with your son, and really you mentioned that it's a 24/7 job, and it's good that you've been able to find that time to get and find family time when you're working as much as you are and having to be here.
Yeah, being able to spend that time with my family is definitely important to me, especially since I welcomed my daughter here in February as well. So now we've got a house with 2 little ones that are 2 years old and younger. So it's definitely exciting to spend more time with them. And when push comes to shove, being able to take that time just means that I have a very good staff around me and being able to trust them to get things handled and taken care of so that I don't need to look over their shoulder and make sure that things are ready to go. It's just nice to be able to just rely on them and allow them to essentially tell me to step back and take this time.
A prime example of how much Seth does, though, is when he went out last year, the birth of his daughter, it took about 3 of us to oversee the duties that he's usually keeping on his shoulders. So we like having you around, but we're glad that you're getting time off. But yeah, there is a lot more on our shoulders when you're gone, and we're happy to do it because you've earned it.
I appreciate that. It's definitely the way that I look at it and the way that I look at college athletics as a whole and just working in college athletics, particularly from the communication side. I sat down, did an interview with the Big South about this last year, but every day in college athletics, there's something new that's going on. There's either a new storyline that needs to be pursued. There's a game that's happening that no one's ever seen before. There's a conversation that's not been had, or there's a new technique that we can learn and try. So every day there's something new. So every day there's something that just continually draws you in and brings you back. And yeah, there are some additional responsibilities that come along the way from time to time. But the part that I enjoy the most is just, every day there's something new that you can learn, that you can grow, that you can either teach or develop or something along those lines. And I just love the atmosphere.
Yeah, people ask me like, what is if your future holds and would you go pro and everything? And I always tell them like, there is something about the college atmosphere where you're always learning something. And if you are in a sport, by the time you're like, all right, I'm kind of over this. Hey, guess what? New things are starting. New things are starting. All right, basketball's been great, but I'm kind of over it. Oh, hey, it's baseball season. Whereas if you're in professional baseball or hockey or whatever, it's that for 9 months. It is nice to have that ever evolving, ever changing atmosphere that you're around.
Absolutely. And just being able to talk with the different athletes and different coaches is definitely just refreshing unto itself. I've been here 9 years. We have 16 sports here at Charleston Southern. And in one way or another, I have been the primary media contact for each of the 16 sports at one time or another. So it's been able to just work with the different programs, the different athletes, the different times of year. I mean, you just touched on it right there. There are times where after a while, things get to be monotonous. You kind of fall into your routine, and here's what happens on this day, and here's what I need to accomplish and get ready for this next day. So being able to switch it up definitely just keeps you going.
And looking forward a little bit for the fall, is you mentioned your job is you got to get everything lined up, and especially now during the summer, it's you want to get everything laid out early, get it done out of the way so everything's just ready to go. What have you been up to, and what can you do with so many question marks regarding the fall?
It's a lot of preparation. In some ways, in some aspects, you kind of have to pretend like it's almost business as usual until someone else makes that decision. A lot of those decisions are made at a higher pay grade than I currently am. So there's a number of ways that I just have to kind of continue and like everything is going on as usual. So, I mean, right now, this week, I've got a whiteboard that's up here above my desk just of different projects. And it's one of, think of like 3 that I've got stuff written on. But it's working on the football media guide. It's working on the football game day program, the season programs. It's a lot of football stuff, but I'm also working on volleyball posters, soccer posters, different schedule releases as those get more locked into place, being able to tell people when our soccer team's going to play, volleyball team's going to play, cross country when they'll compete, as well as our golf programs. And then there's also the whole added aspect too that I am also our graphic designer for the CSU athletic department. So putting together all the design materials for the book club brochure and all that entails with our fundraising and development, as well as just the game day atmosphere pieces and a number of different things. So there's a lot that crosses my desk. I do stay pretty busy, but right now I'm having to proceed almost like it is business as usual until I'm told otherwise.
Things were slow for a while. It was a big project you were finally able to tackle.
I mean, some of the big projects that we have been working on recently and trying to develop is we're doing of our Hall of Fame process. Going back through the Big South Conference that they just recently announced over this past month, the 2010 to 2019 all-decade teams. And I'm proud to say that I actually got to witness most of those athletes during my time since I started here in 2012. So being able to go back and just relive those accomplishments are great, but it kind of sparked the idea that some of these athletes that we had that were recognized on the all-decade team, as well as previous all-decade teams from the Big South, haven't quite received some of the recognition that they rightly deserve. So we've been going back through just our entire Hall of Fame process and figuring out, okay, what accomplishments have our athletes had? What accolades have they had? Where do they rank up against our all-time records? Where do they rank up against the Big South all-time records? And just trying to piece all that together has been a huge project unto itself, and I can't thank Derek Bennington enough, my associate director, just for all his time and effort that he's been putting in for that. But I mean, there's just a number of other projects we're trying to put together. Essentially all the pieces that people will see when they drive past Buccaneer Field on the video board, as well as just all of our printed materials too. So it's hard to narrow down one project, but I will say probably the one that I'm most proud of is just the development of where we currently sit with our Hall of Fame process, our nominees, and that and all that entails.
So we've talked a lot about what your busy life looks like with work, and you mentioned you've got your two kids now. What are some of the things you like to do away from the office to kind of get away from everything?
When that happens, there's a lot of time where I just want to sit back and enjoy and not really do a whole lot. It's nice to just take that time, and my son has a lot of toy cars, so we will go and we'll play toy cars, or we'll go out in the backyards and shoot baskets or something like that. It's just right now I'm in that time of life where my downtime and my away time is just spending time with my family, whether we're in the house, which has been a majority of the last couple of months, just with everything just getting out and exploring, going to the playground with him or something with my son. It's nice to spend a lot of time with my family. And then when they're all down, I'm an avid reader. I definitely like a lot of books about history of our nation, and just general world history overall. So I've got a nice collection that when we recently rearranged some of the rooms in our house, able to put a bookshelf next to my side of the bed, and being able to have some of my favorite books there that I can just pull down and read whenever the urge hits.
What are some of the kind of the best couple ones that you've read so far in the last few months?
Oh, that is a good question. I actually just recently finished off one of the primary writers that I enjoy is Jeff Shara, and he's got a lot of historical books where he kind of dives into the mindsets of 3 or 4 people from either a given battle or a given part in history. And I actually just finished his 4-part series on the War of the West in the Civil War, which was just enlightening, just to see from the aspects of everyone that was involved in those fights, what their personal beliefs were, and it opened the eyes in some ways just to what the realities of the situation were back then. But also, my wife and I are avid Lord of the Rings fans. We typically watch those movies whenever they come out. So over Christmas, I got essentially the entire Tolkien collection, and I've worked my way through all 3 of the Lord of the Rings books, The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, and I'm working on a few other things right now. So it's nice just to sit back and read.
Funny story. This is my favorite book, and it is by Jeff Stead. It's based on the Battle of Gettysburg.
Yep.
So I know all about it. And for an added feature, it is signed by Martin Sheen because he played Robert E. Lee in Gettysburg, the adaptation of the book. So I didn't realize that, but I've got a couple of the Dad and Sons books as well. It's good stuff.
Yeah, he's dived into a lot. I actually was looking the other day online and found a book that he wrote about the Korean War that I'm interested in, as well as the war over Texas, which is something that I want to go back and take a look at some point as well. But they're easy to read. He just has a way of diving into the characters that I just enjoy.
Yeah, because when his dad wrote that original book, The Killer Angels, history books were history, and this was, you don't want to say fictionalized history, but to an extent, yeah, that's right, because you are getting in the heads of the colonels and the generals and all these people, assuming some of what they say, but basing it on their actions. And that was kind of groundbreaking at the time, and his son has really taken that mantle and done the same thing with others. And they're really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So while we're going to history, you've been at CSU for a while. You said it, not me. Best athlete, doesn't matter the sport, best athlete you've seen come through.
Oh, best athlete that I've seen come through. Well, like I said, I've worked with all 16 programs, so I could probably give you a best athlete per program that might get me in trouble with some of these athletes that I still consider some of my friends. But pound for pounds, if I had to say the best athlete that I've seen come through, I want to say it's a tie between 2. that come to mind. And they are Eric Ostell, former offensive lineman for our football team that was the first football player invited to the NFL Combine. Just someone that big should not be able to move that quickly or that skilled, but he stood out every time he was on the field. And then you have to go back to 2013-14. He's the guy that I wish we had on the football team longer, just for the shoot that he made. But Christian Reyes was just a beast at running back. I think he put together the only 1,000-yard rushing game that we've had in 1,000-yard rushing season that we've had in CSU history. And he was just a real game changer. Took a lot of those running backs that you see now at the top of our record book. He took them under his wing, but he was one of those guys that he was just built in a different way. And he was the type of football player that we hadn't seen at the program as of yet. And yeah, he was just a wrecking ball and a force. So I would say those two guys, pound for pound, were probably the best athletes that I've seen during my time.
Reyes was there right when I started, and that was a guy you did not want to mess with on the field. Very large, built like a running back, and was just that was a big man, and yeah, I can agree with that one.
Yeah. So those would be my top two.
Pretty good top two there. The CSU's representative for the Combine, a pretty cool thing there, and then one of the best running backs to come through. When it comes to kind of your travels, and you're based in Charleston, obviously, and you spend a lot of time there, but you do get to travel around. Where's one of your favorite places you've gotten to travel around being in sports?
I would probably say that the most enjoyable trip that I've made, and one that I would love to go back and do again, was the game that, or was the season our football team opened up at Mississippi State. It was just a completely new atmosphere, and it was one of those ones that we actually got to. We got in the night before the game, and they were hosting. And it was a season opener, so they were hosting like their season opener block party, probably a mile down the road from our hotel. And we just got to go around and mingle with the different fans and enjoy that. So got to walk around. Everyone was just very nice, complimentary. And it was just a really good experience from start to finish. But as far as an athletic perspective, probably the best trip that I got to be a part of, and one that I always remember, is the year that our football team opened up at North Dakota State. Just walking into the Fargo Dome for the first time, hearing the crowd roar, because that was the year after Carson Wentz was drafted number 2. And just that entire experience, listening just throughout the game to the crowd, and just seeing the atmosphere and seeing almost 20,000 people there cheering on the game in Fargo, North Dakota. It was just a fantastic environment, and then came so close to pulling off that upset, which would have been sweet. But I would say those two trips are among the best. And then you can never go wrong with a trip to Charlotte. I usually make that trip a few times a year. Haven't been able to this year just because of travel concerns, but usually Charlotte's a great place. That's where the Big South Conference offices are located, and that's where we typically host our conference media days. And it's just enjoyable to be up there, mainly because of the people that you get to spend around. We are, from an athletic communication standpoint, we are kind of a brotherhood when it comes down to just being around it, because a lot of us, even though we're different areas, we share the same experiences, and we get to just kind of sit back and swap stories. We're a lot like the coaches, and I just want to sit back and swap stories and learn from and talk to, and those times are most enjoyable.
Well, Nick, I don't know if you've got anything else. I know that Seth, you're extremely busy, always doing something. And so, yeah, I don't know if you got anything else for him, Nick.
Update your computer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on that. I've been mostly using my iPad, but I figured that you guys wanted me to look dead on the camera instead of off to the side. So pull laptop. I mean, typically I use my laptop for game days, my desktop for everything else. And you're right, I should update it because we will be on game day sooner than anyone else is counting on and expecting.
Yeah, before we know it, and we're all very much itching to get back there.
Yeah.
We definitely are. Well, Seth, thanks for joining us. Good luck with everything going forward, getting everything ready for this fall. And we look forward to hopefully being back in the office and being able to be around each other again soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to having you guys back. I will say that usually having somewhere between 9 to 12 people roaming through our office on a given day between our full-time staff, our part-timers, our game day workers, to right now just having me back here is definitely a little different. But I miss the encouragement and just the activity and everything that you guys bring, and I can't wait to have you guys back.
Well, looking forward to it. Thanks, Seth, for all that you do, and thanks for joining us. That's Seth Montgomery, the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Public Relations. That was Seth Montgomery, the Associate Athletic Director for Communications and Public Relations, a long title for a very busy man. And, you know, we kind of have to – I feel like we kind of have to kiss up to him a little bit. I mean, he is the one, like we said, that's letting us keep doing this every week. So, you know, we got to say good things.
Yeah, without him, I would not have this job, literally and figuratively, because I went through an experience in my life that was scarring when it came to full-time sports jobs, and he was very patient and open about what to expect, and I was like, all right, sure, whatever, I'll give it a try, and now I love working here. So without him, I don't have this job, and not just because he hired me. So I'm always indebted to him, and I always try to see if I can take some off his plate because he's a very busy man, but we love having him around, and we're glad he's our direct boss. And I'm not saying that because he's my direct boss.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate everything that Seth does, and really, it's just it's a tiny slice of kind of what it looks like behind the scenes and what makes every single week going into for a sports season look like. It's absolutely insane. Everything that we do is minuscule compared to that.
Yeah, I mean, he told you the rundown of what happens for football. You know, that's a bigger sport, so it requires a little more attention. But imagine even just halving that for basketball, women's basketball, baseball, softball. You know, you name the sport, and it's the same kind of preparation, game in and game out. So it's just their role is exhausting. It can seem thankless. So if you know an SID, say thank you.
Yes, yeah, definitely. If you know one, if you work with one, don't forget, say thank you, because without them, any of that information that you might have or you might need, it does not exist.
Derek Bennington, Harrison Huntley, thank you.
Yes.
Even Hannah. Thank you, Hannah.
Yes, we appreciate all of the SIDs for helping our job making our job a little bit easier. But I think that's going to do it for this week. It was another good week. As always, it's always fun chatting with everybody. And like we said, getting a little behind the scenes peek at what everything goes like.
Yeah, you know, we kind of gave it the behind the scenes for us last week. Now it's behind the scenes for this. And it's a direction we're going to try to go a little bit more before we loop back around to sports, because there are some people behind the scenes that you might not know, some faces you do know, some you might take for granted that you're like, oh, this is what they're up to, and get to know them a bit more. It's just another nice deep dive into athletics.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you all joining us again this week. For my partner, Nick Case, my name is Killian McClatchy, and we'll see you all next time here on Buccaneer Insider.